They watched. They waited. They wanted something inside that house, and they were willing to wait a lifetime to take it. No one ever saw them, but they were always there. Hello, darlings, and welcome to RIP with Lindsay, the place where the quiet ones speak loudest and the shadows always listen. I'm your host, the voice behind the velvet curtain, the lips on your neck in the dark. And tonight, I want you to imagine your dream home. Big, beautiful, and hiding something sinister just beneath the paint. This episode, as always, is brought to you by our outstanding producers at Chicken Wrap Productions, where even nightmares are polished and edited to perfection. Special thanks to Spote, our darling editor, who has dimmed the lights and stirred the storm for this episode. I also want to thank all of you for being here, for watching and sharing, liking and subscribing, all the things. You're helping us grow the show, and we have so much in store for you in the coming months. So pour something cold, lock your doors, and lean in just a little closer, because this story, this one doesn't knock before it lets itself in. Welcome to RIP. So let's talk about the dream home. It's 657 Boulevard, Westfield, New Jersey, and it's sort of one of those picturesque towns that you see in holiday movies. Historic homes, tree-lined streets, neighbors waving to each other, children on bicycles. A place where nothing truly bad could really happen, right? Well, in June of 2014, Derek and Maria Bradis thought they'd found their forever home at 657 Boulevard, a stately, ivy-draped Dutch colonial worth $1.3 million. It was just a few blocks from where Maria had grown up, and it was a dream come true for their growing family of 5. They bought the home and began renovations. They daydreamed, they perfected, they thought they had arrived. But what had really arrived was sort of a sinister letter. No return address. It was handwritten on thick, rather formal paper. Think like the type of paper you would use for a resume. You know, you want it to make a statement all its own. And inside, a greeting that would become infamous. Dearest new neighbor at 657 Boulevard, allow me to welcome you to the neighborhood. A chill in the air. The letter went on. 657 Boulevard has been the subject of my family for decades now. And as it approaches its 110th birthday, I have been put in charge of watching and waiting for its second coming. A watcher? Watching what exactly? Then a series of letters begins to unfold, one by one, saying things that are very unhinged. I see you've already flooded 657 Boulevard with contractors so that you can destroy the house as it was supposed to be. Tisk, tisk, tisk. Bad move. The writer's tone shifts from formal to menacing. And then they begin to mention the children. You have children. I have seen them. So far, I think there are 3 that I've counted. Suddenly, this isn't abstract anymore. This is personal. This person knows how many children they have. The letters go on. Do you need to fill the house with the young blood I requested? Better for me. Was your old house too small for your growing family? Or was it greed to bring me your children? Once I know their names, I will call to them and draw them to me. The letters didn't stop. They just went on and on. They got longer and angrier. One even seemed to scream, "Stop changing it!" It cries for the past and what used to be in the time when I roamed its halls. The house is crying from all the pain it is going through. You have changed it and made it so fancy. You're stealing its history. It cries for the past and what used to be in the time when I roamed its halls. The walls have memory, the letters seemed to say. So the couple who live here, the Broadduses, were absolutely terrified. They did everything they could think to do. They installed cameras. They stopped bringing their kids to the property. They reached out to the previous owners, John and Andrea Woods. The Woods had lived at 657 Boulevard happily for 23 years. They did later, however, admit that they had received one letter just days before moving out. It had thanked them for taking care of the house, but it hadn't raised any red flags. The neighbors and investigators began to canvass the neighborhood, where a man who lived behind the house, Michael Langford, was identified. He was an odd, unemployed man with a history of mental illness. His family had lived next door for decades. A perfect suspect? Maybe. But nothing stuck. He denied everything, and no evidence could tie him to the letters. Another neighbor was seen by Maria lingering suspiciously near the mailbox. A woman in a parked car, her license plate traced to someone in another town. No connection. The family even wondered, could the watcher be someone jealous of their home purchase? Could it be someone involved in the sale itself? Or could it be one of them? Some online sleuths wondered if Derek or Maria had written the letters themselves to get out of a mortgage or to sell a screenplay, but no conclusive evidence ever supported those claims. Let's take a look at the police and investigative timeline on this mystery. The Westfield police were absolutely baffled by this, and they did everything they could. They tested DNA found on one of the envelopes. It matched a female. Was it Maria, the homeowner? No. They tested a neighbor's teenage daughter. Still no match. The family even hired a private investigator, a former FBI agent, ran a linguistic profile on the letters. Still nothing. Online sleuths joined the hunt. And naturally, conspiracy forums spun wild theories about a cult, a land curse, a disgruntled town historian. Still nothing. So the Broadduses sued the Woods family for failing to disclose the earlier letter, but as you can expect, the case collapsed. They also tried selling the house, but the story had gone public by this time and buyers recoiled. In 2016, they rented it out. Even those tenants received a letter. Finally, in 2019, the house sold at a staggering $400,000 loss. But by then, the story had already become legendary. So much so that Netflix bought the rights, and in 2022, The Watcher became a dramatized series. Public opinion split sharply. Were the Broadduses victims of a stalker or opportunists spinning a ghost story for profit? Now, darlings, this is what I think. I think this wasn't just a prank. I also don't believe it to be an unsolved mystery that the homeowners perpetrated. I think that, to me, the letters that I read, they seem to carry too much ritual, too much obsession with bloodlines, with legacy, with the past. And I suspect the walker was local. Someone generationally tied to Westfield, someone who viewed the house as sacred, an heirloom to the town itself. Not a scam, not a hoax, not a passing stranger. The letters read like scripture from a disturbed mind. And yes, one convinced that the house clearly had power. I just can't begin to imagine how frightening it would be to know that on some level I was being watched in my home. I can't imagine a greater violation of my sense of security or privacy. And for this family who thought they were moving into this big, beautiful dream home, they'd probably worked very hard to make this dream happen, and the day has finally arrived, and they sort of float across the threshold the first time. Their feet aren't even touching the ground. carried in by the very strength of their daydreams. And then for that to come unraveling steps away in their own mailbox, a menacing threat looming. I don't believe I would have ever been able to feel safe in that home or settled. And I imagine it's probably a challenge for even the current residents today. I am the Watcher. I've waited for this day for decades. Soon you will move in and the children will be mine. 657 Boulevard is crying to me. It's waiting for its glory days once more. I will know when you move in. I will know who you are. This is the horror of the Watcher. Not murder, not blood, but something more intimate. The collapse of safety. A dream home becoming a nightmare. Suburbia stripped of its promise of safety and sweet companionship with your neighbors. The American dream surveilled. But true terror isn't who wrote the letters. It's that someone, anyone, can insert themselves into your story and steal your peace. So, darlings, what do you think? Was the Watcher real or a carefully staged illusion? Slide into RIP's DMs with your theories, or whisper them into the night, and maybe, just maybe, I'll hear them on the wind. Until next time, stay curious, stay cautious, and remember, just because you can't see them doesn't mean they're not watching. Until next week, I can't wait to see you. Thank you so much for being here. Bye for now.